right. Just a quick sort of follow up with this RIO trade. Look, basically, what we're sort of seeing here is obviously sort of like, I mean, you can see this in the last couple of analysis videos I've done. We had this little sort of support come in around this bottom level over here. Obviously, sort of nice little pop up at first. Little bit of a shake earlier this week, but that's all right because really that all that's done is sort of provided a little bit of a back test. Very rarely do you get these things to come out and then just go and then sort of accelerate back on. I mean, even coming down here, we did get a little bit of a sort of obviously touched into this level here. Must have come back down here and sort of touched again a second time and that with it all. So the fact that it sort of could come back down here and sort of basically reaffirm this support line along here, I think is a very sort of solid positive movement for it. Look, where it really is at the moment is we're in a little bit of sort of a midway no man's land, and that we are finding a little bit of a resistance, which I'll sort of get to in a moment, just based on a little bit of the sort of volume and price action that we saw like about a week or two or so ago. Must have been a couple of weeks ago now, but it's been a nice little pop up. This is the question though, as to sort of where to from here, because as I'll show in a moment, we're coming into a little bit of a resistance zone here, and that's fine. Resistances don't always hold. I mean, support's never always there to hold. Resistance isn't always there to hold, but they are sort of key areas where either you can sort of sort of take profit, or B, trade against them, or C, use them as confirmation levels for the next leg. And basically, what we're finding at the moment is we're coming into a little bit of a sort of lower time frame sort of resistance. Which you can kind of see a little bit on the chart coming through here, where they were trying to sort of hold it through this zone, and obviously bang, they've sort of pushed that back down here. So I think this sort of 110, 111 area is going to be the little pivot point where we're basically at this level here. So if you look back at, even I think I put this on here from the 5th of May, the idea was to come back down here, find support, and push back up. And now we've sort of played this out. We've found our support down here. We've confirmed the support. We're pushing back up. This is kind of where we're at the moment. Whereas we've got the ability to overcome this little resistance level. We move on. Our next target, back up against 116, this falling resistance, and then sort of see what the market has to say and do about it there. Or if it's unable to get over this sort of 110, 111 sort of area, then there's a good chance that it could sort of roll over and we could sort of see a little bit more sort of downside. Now, look, the ASX as a whole seems to be still firing on. It's had a couple of shakes and quick sell-offs and that, but people seem to be stuck on sort of buy mode at the moment. So it's very much sort of got the sort of overall market sort of sentiment on its side for now. One thing I did want to actually just call up was this other chart that we had from it here. So I'll zoom this one in a bit. So this is basically just sort of shows a little bit more of a look inside it. And so obviously we've got the volume down the side over here as well. This is the kind of area that I was talking about a second ago, where it was kind of leveling out a little bit. And if you kind of sort of just say, okay, like through this zone here, this is kind of what's going to be our resistance area. And, you can kind of see that basically around this point here, coming down, that's where we had a big spike in volume. Where else did we have a big spike in volume? Down the very bottom here. So we can tell that sort of like these big spikes are coming in when, they're trying to sort of put in a base, trying to put in a low. So obviously the sort of people coming through here had the idea it would sort of probably come down, maybe level out a little bit, and then move back up to the top side. Obviously it didn't, and it sort of continued down. Now the fact that it's sort of coming back up here, these people that sort of gave it a shot over here, this high lot of sort of volume, not everybody's like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to move all the way up. As I said, the mentality basically that you would have leveled off and then continued on your way, that's fine. They didn't get that wrong. They happened to sort of possibly take an even trade or a small loss, and then move on to something else. And that's fine. But the point is, how that's relevant to us is that that's going to create a little bit of resistance. You're going to have to sort of overcome that sort of level. Because if you look at sort of, if we clear this up a little bit and get a few of these back off now, and we sort of look at sort of where was price at when it was trying to go through this area, well, if we get back onto this and you sort of drag this across at this sort of high point here where we had this high sort of spike of volume, well, that was coming across, around that sort of 111 area. And I mean, if you want to say where they finally gave it up was around this sort of 109 area. And you can see how this has sort of reacted as prices sort of come back up to it. It's very much touched into it the other day, we had a bit of a push back down. That's fine. That was the bottom of this little sort of box area that we're calling our sort of resistance block. It's sort of had a second effort there. So maybe you've taken out a bit of the sort of volume of the people that were trying to sort of just, okay, if it gets back up here, happy to get out. Now you're pushing up to this next level here. This is around your sort of 110, 111 kind of area. I mean, this is things aren't sort of to the cent, and it's a general sort of generalization of it all. These are the sort of the levels that you need to take out. And so if we get back onto the other sort of main chart, and we can sort of see how this looks actually just on with the candles, you can see that this little area here, it was grinding. What it was attempting to do, basically, where we got it was attempting to sort of come down, put in a bottom like this. As you can see, it was grinding, trying to swing around to push back up towards these sort of resistance or previous sort of support resistance kind of areas. Obviously failed to do, and then bang, it's pushed back down over there. So again, look, I think that this isn't necessarily a top. It's not like this is still the plan. Back down to supports, bounce up through this area here, and then find our little pivotal point here. And I think this is why we can sort of grab this as a little sort of resistance area, even though it's on a lower time frame, and we're working mainly off the weeklies. But if you put your little sort of resistance area through here, this is the area in which it needs to sort of overcome. And it still could sort of move up towards these levels here. But I think these are the kind of areas, as I said at the start of this, use these kind of areas where you can pinpoint out and sort of say, hey, look, you know what, if it gets to this area, if you bought from these support areas, these are your first targets. You don't have to go all in, all out. You can certainly take partials on these things, but at these kind of areas, you can expect a sort of a bit of a reaction. And that's what we've seen now. We've seen it sort of open up, nice little gap up, bang, sold into straight away. And you've got to unpack sort of like, why? Why would people be selling into that straight away on a sort of a big sort of like, I think it was up 2% or something on the open. And if you look at this from the lows that we sort of saw, just a couple of days ago, I mean, it's moved up 10%. I mean, that's pretty decent as well. So, if you could sort of buy these supports, get your sort of, not everybody bought the bottom, sold the top, but, 6 or 7 or 8% in a matter of sessions, well, I mean, that's pretty good. But what you can expect is a bit of a reaction here, which is what we saw. But again, if this moves up and sort of overcomes this level, same as we saw with the bottom side of this support here. So this was the bottom level that we were looking at, where it was trying to hold sideways, and this is underneath sort of, 108, 108.80 kind of thing. It kind of gave way. As soon as it got back up into that, well, people sort of took a little bit of profit and bang, they sold down. And what we're doing is seeing the same thing here again. So really, it's no sort of surprise that we get a bit of a reaction here. This little point is where we're kind of at the moment. If I can put that little loop on there. And from here, you've got the idea that either A, we sort of break through this level, and then you sort of think, okay, well, where's the next level? And where are we going to see another level of reaction? Well, you could probably drag this up and look for pretty much a similar sort of thing happening up over here. Hence that sort of, the purple's a bit more of a wider because we've been working off the weekly time frame. But around that sort of like, 1480s, they're not necessarily going to get out second here, but through this kind of, 1450 to 1650, that kind of area, that's the kind of next area that you'll be looking at. And again, you go back to the higher time frames, so the weeklies, and this is, if you look back on the video I did on the 5th of May, this is the thing that I was talking about. This is the mentality that needs to be broken. Because although it's very well known, I mean, it's a cute sort of saying, nothing goes in a straight line. Well, it's very true. And you're seeing these things come down, people are buying, and these are some good trades. I mean, as I said, that was 10%, in a matter of sessions. I mean, if you're trading, like in and out, you're not investing for it all, that's a good return. But what you are sort of seeing, although you've got these straight lines here where buyers are trying to hold it, the overall selling pressure each time is moving down, and they're accepting a little bit less each time. And it doesn't matter whether they bought it up from 115 or back here, they sort of bought it up from 105, took it up to 130. There's no difference in that. What you need to overcome is this falling resistance. And this is why I would say that the next sort of point, should this 110 level be taken out, would be here. because you've got this falling resistance, and this is the sort of mentality. So it's not just this horizontal here, as I just spoke about a second ago with the lower time frames, but it's also that sort of falling resistance. Now, again, these things aren't always made to hold, aren't always made to play their part and break. So we could see a move down from here, or we could see a breakthrough from here. I mean, I know it's sort of covering on both sides, but that's the whole point of this, is that most likely you're going to see a continuation, meaning, if you do get up here, I wouldn't be buying it into this level. If you've bought down here, then you'd be looking to take some profit here. Possibly if you want to keep a runner, you keep a runner, because once this does break, once you see a shift in this sort of like lower, accepting lower amounts, if you see a shift in that mentality, well, then you're opening yourself up to, hold on, wait, we've changed that way of thinking. Maybe we can get a little bit more for it. And we look at the previous levels, and you look for this whole sort of mentality to start moving back up this other side, and you can then fill out the levels where people have sort of been taking things back onto the horizontals, the levels in which they've previously been sort of taking profit and accepting the price for. But the thing is, you pick out these levels, you can expect a reaction here, you can expect a reaction here. Should it break? Well, it opens the door really back up into the 20s and 30s, these kind of levels much higher. But till you break this mentality of this overall sort of accepting of lower prices from the sellers, you're doomed pretty much to sort of just be playing in this lower levels down over here. So again, if you're holding from down here, that's great. I wouldn't be buying once you're getting up into 115, 116 areas, because you're going to see a reaction. Most likely it's going to be a bit more of a sort of a continuation of this sort of move to the downside though. That's it from me.